Now we're moving on to complex sentences. A complex sentence contains at least one independent clause and one dependent clause. Here is the example. John set up his typewriter because the wall has no outlet. Again, John cannot set up his typewriter because the wall has no outlet. Our independent clause is John cannot set up his typewriter. Our dependent clause is because the wall has no outlet. We have circled the word because. This is our subordinating conjunction, and it is making this entire clause dependent. Another example is, she will go to the school in the city until she finds a job. The sentence formula for this complex sentence is independent clause, subordinating conjunction, dependent clause. Our independent clause is that she will go to the school in the city. This is independent. It makes sense on its own. But then we added our dependent clause. Our subordinating conjunction until is making this clause dependent. We have our sentence formula once again, independent clause, subordinating conjunction, dependent clause. We can flip-flop the formula around. This formula is when the dependent clause comes first. Notice that you have to have a comma if the dependent clause comes first. When I first moved to the city, I was afraid to drive the steep and narrow streets. This is my subordinating conjunction, and it makes this entire clause dependent on our independent clause. We put a comma there because as readers, we pause. Alright, let's see how we do in each of these sentences. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to determine if these are all complex sentences, and I see in the directions that they all are complex sentences. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to look for our subordinating conjunctions. I want you to go ahead and circle those because those are like your headlights of a car. Those tell you that the clause is starting. So I see after the players practiced, when, after, until, before, while, and because. This signifies to me that this is our dependent clause. This also tells me that this is our dependent clause. Notice how the subordinating conjunction starts our dependent clause. It is our headlight starting our car. Alright, so we have bracketed in all of our dependent clauses. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to go through and we're going to write the sentence formula being used in each sentence. We're either going to be using the independent clause, subordinating conjunction, dependent clause formula, or the subordinating conjunction, dependent clause, comma, independent clause formula. Let's look at number 1. You have circled that after is our subordinating conjunction, so automatically we know that there has to be a comma because this is a dependent clause. So our sentence formula would be subordinating conjunction, dependent clause, comma, IC for independent clause. Look at number 2. Our first clause looks like it's independent. You will be sleeping. That makes sense on its own. And then look, here's our subordinating conjunction right in the middle of the sentence. That tells me that our sentence formula is independent clause, subordinating conjunction, dependent clause. Let's look at number 3. The players went out for pizza after they practiced. What is the sentence formula? If you said independent clause, subordinating conjunction, dependent clause, you are correct. see how you do on the rest on your own. Just a couple more examples of some subordinated conjunction dependent clause, comma, IC formulas. This is when the dependent clause comes first. See if you can make a complex sentence out of number 1. When I get home, what will you do? You have to have an independent clause. When I get home, I will do my homework. When I get home, I will eat a snack. When I get home, we will clean the house. Same thing in number 2. Because it is raining, you need an independent clause. Because it is raining, what will happen? Because it is raining, we cannot play football. Because it is raining, we cannot go outside. Remember, when you have the dependent clause coming first, you have to have a comma. Now, when it's reversed though, when the independent clause comes first, there is no comma. Now, this is going to be news to some of you because you love putting a comma before the word because. No, no, no. Commas never come before the word because. When you have an independent clause followed by a dependent clause, there is no comma. So we need to get out of the habit of putting the comma before the word because. I will play outside when it stops raining. The game was canceled because it snowed. I can go play after I clean my room. The girl cried because she hurt her foot. Notice once again there is no comma before the word because when the independent clause comes first.